Welcome, everyone. I'm Ron Gerber, CEO of AngelBeat. So glad to have Robin Priestley from Rockwell Automation. Robin, as you can tell from his LinkedIn profile, is Mr. Sustainability at Rockwell. So it's a real pleasure to have you here, Robin.
Pleasure to be here.
Excellent. What I've asked Robin to do, after he gives you a little bit more of his impressive background, tells you a little bit about Rockwell, for those of you who may not know Rockwell, they make a whole suite of tools to support manufacturing operations. You may not know Rockwell products themselves, but literally just about every single product we use today, from these webcams to monitors to computers, all of them are built using Rockwell products. So let's have Robin share a little bit about Rockwell and himself, talk about why sustainability is so important for Rockwell's internal operations. Their sales are approximately $8 billion. They have tens of thousands of employees, plants literally across the world. So it's very, quite honestly, reassuring to know that a company of the size and scope of Rockwell are so committed to ESG initiatives. Then I've also asked Robin to share with us, okay, it's great to know what you're doing internally. What are some of the products, services that Rockwell offers to its external customers, and how do those products help enhance their sustainability efforts? So Robin, all yours.
Well, great. Well, thank you. And appreciate the time that you're giving us to actually talk. So the interesting thing about this is, as Ron alluded to, Rockwell, we sell about $8 billion worth of hardware and software and that sort of thing. And although the consumer generally never buys our equipment, you can't touch anything in your house or at work or in industry where Rockwell software solution, whether it's process control or motors and drives, it doesn't matter. All of that stuff came to life, and we improve the quality and sustainability of everything that a manufacturer produces with our products, and that's where I come in. So for over 30 years, I've been working. A long time ago, we didn't even call it sustainability, but that's what I did. And so I am the senior consultant for sustainability. I work globally and I live in the central region of the United States, and happy to do so. The nice thing about this is that internally we are very focused on reducing our scope 3 and our scope 2 and doing anything we can to be across the board, right? We want to be able to reach net zero. We want to improve our energy intensity. We want to decrease our carbon footprint, and we do all of that sort of thing internally, because your corporate ESG score and what you do for the environment and people is critically important to us all. I get the fun part of, I might advise our internal teams on things like managing demand factor or load factor, depending on how you score it, and other things. But I get to help our clients.
Okay.
And that's what's really exciting, is because I get to work with client sites from around the world, and I get to help them make improvements to their carbon footprint and what they're doing. And the great thing about it is, often when people think of Rockwell or Allen Bradley, they think, oh, okay, they're going to sell me a widget to help me. And you're right, we've got widgets, and by gosh, we'd be more than happy to sell you a boatload of them. But in reality, what I get to do is actually bring the science of sustainability and power and energy in all of its forms to bear. So to give you an idea, where we've gotten involved and have done sustainability project assessments. Now that's different than the free audits that people are used to seeing, where somebody will come in and they're right. It's like, you can save energy and reduce carbon by changing your lighting. But what I do and what we do collectively is we look for the areas where you can make significant changes with as little investment as possible, because our goal is to actually maximize the return on investment.
And when you become a Rockwell widget customer, these are some of the additional benefits you get.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anybody who works with Allen Bradley or Rockwell, right, or the mothership, if
Yeah.
you work with us, you've got access to a wide range of consulting services, some that are available at no cost, some that are fee-based. But for example, if you're one of our clients, we've got tools to help you migrate and actually takes you through step by step how to do the 4 easiest sustainability projects ever, right? And right down to the point where you can call us and get free help over the phone, or for a fee, we'll come out and help you. We can even do the project.
Could
But
you
it's,
describe one or all four of those kind of
oh,
examples
sure,
and give everyone some real life examples?
sure. So, for example, almost every building has got a chiller plant or AC units, or they're doing something with HVAC.
Sure.
Well, we've got techniques and we've got a widget that'll help you. But one of the cool things about it is when we look at HVAC systems or we look at cooling towers, there's a variety of ways, or heat exchangers. There's a variety of ways where we can reduce the natural gas consumption during heating cycles, and we can dramatically reduce the energy consumption and improve mechanical efficiency of cooling systems. Now, just to make it really clear, there's a peaking plant, a gas turbine peaking plant, 200 horsepower cooling towers, and they would run 200 to 400 horse depending on the season, all the time whenever they were operating. Well, by utilizing and applying the affinity laws, we got them down to where they solved all their mechanical issues, all of their maintenance issue. They run all 8 100% of the time, and their annualized average horsepower consumption is actually 22 and a half horse, right? So instead of 200 horse or 400 horse, they're literally running 22 horsepower.
So
And that
it's
means,
5 or 10% less. I
oh,
mean,
no,
excuse
no,
me,
you're,
5 or 10% of the total that they
yes,
had before.
which to them allows them to have more energy to sell. We've done steam plants. My number one best one ever was a steam project with a 9,000% ROI. They installed it over a weekend, and on Sunday night when they turned it on, they literally could cut themselves a check for $6.5 million.
That probably, if not definitely, made a major promotional opportunity for whoever was the facility or
Oh,
manufacturer engineer pulled that together.
absolutely. Everything we do is based on being ultra conservative, because you can beat the payback time, you can beat the return on investment by as much as you want. But if you show up a dollar short or a day late, oh, then you're a pariah. And what we want to do is make sure that the client representatives, whoever we're working with, whether it be EH&S or operations or production management, we want to make sure that whoever is working with us on the part of the client, that they are successful as well. That the easy projects we do first get everybody used to the fact that these are real life credible wins based on math and physics with an actual financial calculation, not, well, if you do X, Y, and Z, we think that you may or you might, or we expect you to. In my opinion, you don't want to do anything unless you see the math before you spend a dime, and make sure that the math makes sense.
That's so impressive. I would imagine that Rockwell's built up this expertise, the legacy Allen Bradley organization, because when you create such a wide diversity of widgets, using your term, you really have to know what goes on in your client's operations to specify them. Most people think of manufacturing efficiencies in terms of reduced downtime, more efficient preventive maintenance, all those kind of what I would call normal benefits. But then, as I'm learning and hearing more, Rockwell can also apply that same knowledge to optimizing all your energy consumption. And as you said, or at least for some of these efficient manufacturers, the easy stuff has been done. Like you've put in LED lights. I remember it was funny. Back when I was a manufacturing engineer, one of my first projects was in lighting, and we had to replace all the ballast, and we put in silver chrome backings in the soffits or in the ceiling so the light could reflect down when it's reflected up. And so we could cut down the lighting in half. That was like the LED equivalent 30 years ago. And now you've got LEDs, but that's the easy stuff. So the good thing, as you said about Rockwell, okay, we've got all the low-hanging fruit for really achieving big sustainability improvements in your HVAC. There's all this terrible climate warming, climate change. Everyone's trying to figure out how they deal with these heat waves. Plants operate, machinery generates a lot of heat. So figuring out a way to make those operations more efficient has got to be so important and valuable.
Yeah. And, for a food customer, they didn't have enough pumping capacity. In order for them to maximize what they could do at that site, they were going to spend around $1.2 million putting in new pumps and infrastructure and all that concrete and steel to do it. And our sustainable solution was, instead, what we'll do is take your existing pumps and piping, and because variable speed drives, at least ours, will have load share built in. And what that allowed them to do is take 3 dissimilar pumps, run them all together without the traditional parasitic losses. And as a result, they saved literally thousands of tons of carbon, huge amounts of cost, the downtime, because they were going to have to rip out the concrete and the superstructure and the piping and put in new systems. And what we did was we shifted the individual pump curves and we made it one massive pump curve. They were able to meet all of their flow requirements at pennies in cost, but the real benefit to them was not having to do all of this expensive construction. Right?
It's amazing. It looks like as I listen to you, it looks like there's 3 key takeaways from this that, as people are watching this, try to understand why Rockwell Automation is so incredibly powerful and important. There's first what Rockwell does internally. If you go to the Rockwell website, there is a comprehensive page, downloads, all these great examples of how your own operations are ESG. And as you said, one part of your services is Rockwell wants to actively share its own solutions and enable other organizations not to have to reinvent the wheel, which is great. Then you've got the second thing, which is these $8 billion or $6 billion worth of Rockwell widgets that you make and sell. A lot of them are built or have built-in capabilities to make organizations' operations more energy efficient, not only through reducing downtime and reducing heat, but all these other capabilities, such as the variable drive capabilities you mentioned, that's going to help them get immediate improvements in the manufacturing processes that directly use the latest and greatest Rockwell products. And then you've got the third element, which is not as much tied to specific Rockwell products, but organizations, your customers, can then tap into Rockwell's expertise as an $8 billion manufacturer who helps manufacturers, your customers, become more efficient and sustainable and achieve net carbon zero. You also have a wealth of expertise as exemplified by your title, Mr. Sustainability at Rockwell, to then provide more software consultative services to help organizations achieve sustainability on a more strategic, larger scale basis, even beyond Rockwell's products in your factory. Is that a reasonable summary of why Rockwell's so impressive?
Yes, it is. Because if you think about it, energy savings represent anything you can save and bring to the bottom line is a massive amount of top line revenue, right, that you received.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, when you conserve resources and lower your cost, you save money. We then have things like artificial intelligence and analytics that, rather than having to figure out how to fund those projects, let the energy savings fund that software and the analytics. Things like Sherlock, which will learn about a process and identify things that you never knew. the cool thing about that is energy savings helps your sustainability, but what will absolutely give you exponential increases will be what you learn when you bring analytics and artificial intelligence into your process. And the cool thing about it is resource savings. When you reduce your energy costs and things of that nature, you get the immediate sustainability win. But when you incorporate analytics and advanced software tools and AI into your process, now you make and you see the gains that were completely invisible to you. And that's what separates you from all of your competition and allows you to make infrastructure changes that are just light years from where you are today.
Okay. So maybe as we finish this up, maybe you could provide some examples of how, and I believe the product is Sherlock, is that correct?
Sure.
That's the Rockwell AI analytics platform. So maybe you could describe how Sherlock helps identify those hidden costs, those hidden inefficiencies that perhaps organizations have just accepted as a cost of doing business for many years, and how Rockwell can say, no, you don't have to accept those costs. We saved you all this energy. Look what else we can do. Let's end with a good real life example of that.
Sure. So what would you prefer, chickens or cookies?
Well, we're not that constrained on time, so how about both? I don't really eat, I don't really have chocolate chip cookies with my fried chicken, but let's give it a shot.
All right. So think about baked goods that have raised patterns on them. Company was very concerned and spent great deals of money trying to get their heating cycles and their conveyors more accurate, because occasionally they would burn that raised edge, and that's bad. So in the process of doing energy savings, we also included in that solution some other environmental things that you don't know how it's going to play out, but basically there's so much revenue being generated by saving some energy that we put some sensors in. And one of the sensors was humidity, right? As long as we're going to see what's going on, because it was about making human performance increase by reducing worker stress and balancing out how we heat and cool the plant. So the energy savings paid for all that. But by tracking humidity, we were able to find that the reason why the logos burned had nothing to do with temperature accuracy or the speed of the conveyor. It had to do with how long were the dry ingredients open to the environment and what was the relative humidity. If you had high relative humidity and the bags were open a reasonable amount of time, they absorbed enough moisture that the logo didn't burn. But if it was very dry, the logos would burn. So that was a piece that they never would have discovered without that.
And now, I would imagine, let's stick with this. I think that's a cookie analogy, or the cookie example. One of the advantages of Rockwell is I'm certain you have a whole huge organization of field service engineers, manufacturing engineers, customer engineers who are so attuned to these issues, who know customers' operations. They are smart, qualified, well-trained enough to then make these educated suggestions. Hey, we don't really deal with moisture, but I think this is an important factor. And knowing how closely we work together, let me track this, see what happens. A great example of Rockwell adding so much value, but another manufacturer who doesn't have Rockwell's team of manufacturing experts and this culture or this mindset probably wouldn't have done that.
That's very true. For example, I'm a certified energy manager and power quality guy, but and there's, I don't know, close to 30,000 energy managers in the US.
Okay.
The difference is, if they didn't grow up in an industrial control environment, if they didn't see, probably, I don't know, 4,000 different industrial operations, you can't apply the science of energy management to processes that you don't understand. So whether it's food and bev or personal care or steel or alloy manufacture, I mean, we've got people who have done it all, right?
Wow. Okay. Well, do you have one other example? Like I know we're talking
Sure.
about, we did the cookies, now maybe the chicken
All right.
example.
So the idea is that if you have a million chickens in a barn, you want to keep them comfy and healthy, which is a big challenge.
Right.
And the client's issue was what they spend on electricity trying to keep the animals healthy. Well, what we did was we did an energy saving project, and that energy savings project saved them so much money, right? That it's like, what else? What are some of the things we're going to, basically they were going to have about a 2-month payback, and their company was fine with a 1-year payback. So what could you sneak into this energy project that might help us in the future? So, all right, we're going to put some more sensors and we're going to learn some more things about chickens, and we're going to let Sherlock, right, figure out what things relate to other things, right? Where impacts. So energy savings paid to do the project, and what are the results? Well, we spend less on natural gas and electricity to heat and cool the chickens. We are tied into the National Weather Service so we can watch the weather patterns shift across the region. And so now we keep the chickens within a temperature range, but we allow the temperature to come up to or down to that limit based on what the weather pattern is going to do, right? If we don't have to cool the plant as much, if in fact a cold front is coming in, then because we're going to put the network in, let's put some vision in. A moving chicken is a healthy chicken. A stationary chicken that bunches up in a corner and then has a few thousands of its friends bunch up behind it is not a healthy chicken.
Sure.
So now the vision system and Sherlock learns, oh, here's an area of the barn where the chickens are stationary. Let's puff some air, let's blink some lights and get the chickens to move around. By keeping the chickens more active, they're able to decrease the amount of antibiotics in the feed. So now you have a healthier chicken that is produced with less energy and fewer drugs and chemicals. So the sustainability goes way up. The overall quality of the meat, depending on your perspective, is way up. And then now what this sets you up for is when you tie the analytics to ThingWorx and you connect the production facilities to ThingWorx with the actual barns, now we start to send chickens not to whatever plant is closest, but to whatever plant can ultimately process those chickens at the lowest total cost. Lowest total cost is also the lowest sustainable impact. So now it's a case where the system looks in and says, okay, diesel fuel is now at this. To ship these chickens an extra 50 miles costs us X, and that increases our carbon footprint. But because the chickens will not need to be housed prior to processing, that lowers the carbon footprint on that end. And you wind up with a net zero production of chicken breasts with fewer chemicals, less heat, fewer resources, and the chickens are happier and healthier. I can go on and on. I apologize.
No, this is all great stuff. And for those of you listening to this, I think it's a great testament to one of America's greatest corporations, Rockwell Allen Bradley, long history in Wisconsin and throughout the United States in helping improve operations. Very inspiring to hear all the activities they're doing internally, how their product design embraces sustainability for its customers. And finally, I think it's also consistent with doing the right thing is also good business, because
Yes.
all of these decisions, sure, it's great to be altruistic and keep the planet healthy, all absolutely important. But I think to Rockwell's extreme credit, incorporating those within traditional financial goals. And as you said, you're saving clients money. They're buying more products and services. It's a win-win all around. And for those organizations that think, well, if I want to meet my financial goals, is that really consistent with meeting ESG objectives? And I think these examples in Rockwell's track record says that as opposed to being goals in conflict, if you do it right, talk to Robin and his team, you'll win big time.
Correct. Because if you are more profit, if you consume fewer resources and produce higher quality goods, that's great. Without the profit, you cannot support the community outreach and the education. You can't donate to those things. If you're struggling to just keep the doors open, you cannot be the type of partner that your community needs you to be. And so it's just very rewarding. It's a great time.
That's great. Well, it sounds like you've had a tremendous career. And as you look ahead to the next 5 years, I imagine you're going to be very, very busy.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Well, we'll look forward to having Rockwell participate in our regular Angel Beat sustainability event. Glad to create this digital content. I hope all of you get value of it. You can always go to the Angel Beat website to learn about more programs. You can always contact me there. Maybe you'd like to meet Robin. Maybe you're an Alan Bradley or Rockwell customer, and you may not be even aware of the tremendous resources and services they offer. Just contact me at AngelBeat, #AngelBeat. We'll be glad to put you in touch with Robin and help you jointly achieve the ESG and financial goals that we all want. Any other concluding comments, Robin?
No, I think you did a nice job. We're here to help.
It's great. Well, thank you so much, Robin. I'm going to end the video blog interview now. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.